Hi guys, this video is not going to be very edited because I don't have enough time in my fucking life to edit a lot of videos. So I'm just going to make this raw and I'm going to keep these videos raw until I have a lot of time to edit them and a lot of time to create thumbnails. So let's start. And in this video, I am going. If you watch this video till the end, I promise you all know a better understanding of a very sensitive topic in India and a very sensitive topic in international community when it comes to Indian reputation. And the topic is caste system. Why I think it's fascinating is because, of course, all of the upper caste member and upper caste centrist approach this topic as if like this wasn't meant to be a rigid system, but rather a classification of occupations. And that is actually the case because when we look at the original text of Hinduism, which is a lot, and one of the things Indian philosopher love to do was to just write really really long books. So instead of saying things in few short words, they loved poeticizing it. They loved making it very elaborate, and this is one of the reasons it was very easy to pollute them because no one would look to the original source, right? That's one of the reasons that Britishers and Eastern Europeans, not Eastern Europeans, I guess, Europeans, Britishers, and Mughals were able to pollute Indians' society per se. So when we think about caste system, it's majority of people think about racism, and which is actually very true. Why that is the case? Because yes, as of right now and as of when we were not independent, we used caste system to make people our peasant and use them as slaves in some sense. And as we became more moral, we understood that, and as more intellectual people came to power, we were able to create a system which rewarded competence rather than bloodline. Now, to understand this, we must actually go pretty far in history and pretty far to Mahabharata time. And in Mahabharata, one of the most fascinating characters, there is a person called Karn. Now, Karn was a Sutputra, that means a charioteer's son. And he wasn't, and that, spoiler alert, that wasn't really his occupation, that wasn't really his bloodline. His bloodline was actually Rajput, not Rajput. He was from royal lineage, okay? He was from royal lineage, and but his mother abandoned him because she was not married back then, and but she still stayed virgin because of a divine thing, and she had him with God, or sun with sun god Surya, and because Surya understood the gravity of the situation and he understood how wrong this particular situation is, but since it happened, he gave him kanan and kundal. So he gave him bangles and oh sorry, bangles for what do you call it, earrings, yes. He gave him earrings and a chest plate. Now, and this was indestructible. And as Khan matured through his life, he found himself in a family of charioteers. And when he had his, when his theologically, when his bloodline took an effect on him, and he was more attracted towards weapons, and he got more attracted towards military strategy and military intelligence, I would say. He found himself in a very weird situation where he wasn't allowed to do so. Why? Because he was the son of a charioteer. He wasn't allowed to have proper military education. And what followed was, after that, a very important person, Bhishma, recognized the capabilities of the young person, and Bhishma said that you're in a really bad situation, and if you want to excel at this, you should leave Hastinapur. Hastinapur was where he was living at the moment, and you should leave Hastinapur and go towards south where people don't actually care. There are some places which don't actually care about caste system, and there are still places which don't care about the caste system, and you should get their education there. I don't particularly remember if it was south or north, but let's just keep it. Let's keep it north since we know a lot of religious activity happens in northern of India. So he went to north, and he found himself in a very weird situation when a Mahavatar of Vishnu, Parshuram, found him, and Parshuram said, would you like, he saw his capabilities, he saw his tej means aura. Brother was aura farming before aura was a term. And he found his stage very attractive, and he said, I would teach you if you want to learn, but what caste are you from, like, you know? And he said, I'm from Brahmin. He was not. The reason he said Brahmin, not Kshatriya, was because Parshuram was really, he was really an enemy of Kshatriya. Because when he was born, when in his timeline, when he was in the peak, Kshatriya did a lot of bad deeds, and they raped and killed women, and they raped and killed children. So he took on Shastra. So this is one of the things. If Kshatriya fails to follow Dharma, Brahmins are supposed to take Shastra and do the job for them. And so Brahmins are, the end of the line. And if Brahman fails, then Mahavatar comes. So, Man and Mahavatar is, of course, Vishnu. So, got it. So he said, I don't teach Kshatriya. So what are you from? So he said, I'm Brahmin, and he was like, cool, bro, you're Brahmin. I'll teach you. And he taught him. He taught him well. He taught him so well that he was one of the strongest warriors in the history of Hinduism. And eventually, he found himself to be one of the most brilliant military strategists and one of the most brilliant warrior in the timeline. And but yet he did not have the right to rule. And eventually, he found him in circumstances where he banded with the evil side of the story with Duryodhan. Now, here is my argument. Okay, and I know this will be very sensitive towards very rigid ideologies of Hinduism and Hindutva per se, but I don't think that was the story. I certainly happen to think that Duryodhan of all, man, seriously, do you think of all people who were Narendra, Indra in men, of all people, Duryodhan would be the one who would give him the power. And it's not an unknown fact that Mughals and British polluted Indian text and Indian philosophy. And we will come back to why it would benefit them in per se. But yeah, so I don't think it started in Mahabharata. I don't think so. I think rather it started a lot, after that actually. And when it started, we'll discuss that. But let's think about it, why Duryodhan wouldn't be the one. Well, Mahabharata frames it in a way that it actually uh, the situation actually benefited Duryodhan. But I would say it did it. I don't think so, because Duryodhan didn't saw his competence until he, had bow and arrow, and he launched the first arrow. I don't think he saw that competence. He was very unsure, and this is a mistake that Shakuni would stop Duryodhan from making. And why would he wanna do that if caste system was really that bad? And another argument of scholars, I've discussed this theory with scholars, and he said, well, it was like that he understood his stage. Like if Duryodhan understood stage, the aura of people, if he had the capabilities of reading aura, he would have read the aura of Krishna. Another argument that Hindu scholars present in front of me, which are not like, I don't interact with 10,000 scholars. I've interacted with 3-4 scholars, so this is just my perspectives. Another version which they put is actually, oh, actually I forgot. Let me remember it. Yep, I think we're gonna skip it, and I'll come back to it if I remember it again. So, hopefully you skipped that part. So, yes, and so that said, now let's forward towards Mughals, right? And we'll discuss the environment of Mughals. So India had really abundance of resources, right? Indian land, the Indian land had abundance of resources. We had fertile land. We have a lot of rivers, a lot, right? And I don't think Europe has that many rivers. India has a lot of rivers, and we also have a lot of cattle. We also have we have a really fertile soil. And this is one of the reasons vegetarian diet was primary sources of Indian nutrition. Now, on the other side, in the Middle East, land was not fertile. You were supposed to eat what you kill. and things were very desperate back then. It was either you kill me or I kill you, and most of the time it was just I'll first kill you and then things happen. So they were like total Darwinians, and Indians were a lot egalitarian back then because we had just abundance of resources. Nobody cared about having more resources. No one had greed. Of course, that would be stupid to think like they didn't want power. They wanted power, but survival was not an issue in India. And at least that is what I have read, and that is at least what I understand. That said, when India has been ruled by almost all of them, right? There were Europeans, then there was first, I think there were Mongolians, and then Alexander also took over India. So there was Athenians and Romans and Mughals, and then there was Mughal Empire, then there was British Empire, and inside India there was a lot of dynasties like Chola dynasty, Ashoka dynasty, and Sikh dynasty. So all of them with very different values and very different culture. And why this is the case? Because I have no damn idea. I particularly think because they weren't greedy. Like, think about it. And the people who were a little bit greedy, who wanted to be imperialist, we know about them. They were Ashoka. Ashoka was really imperialist, right? At first he was a real evil king. Then he got found himself in spirituality, and then he banded together with goodness, I guess. So in general, I don't think Indian rulers were greedy, because if they were, they would have captured the whole land and they would have expanded, but they did not. And the reason why, because they just didn't know better. They didn't know what is desperation, because survival was never the case. On the other hand, in the Middle East, in the Roman, survival was a case, and this is one of the reasons India has one of the most sophisticated philosophy. We have one of the longest philosophies and very sophisticated philosophy, which ties into cosmology and solar system and a lot of things. So this is one of the reasons I particularly think Indian rulers weren't greedy. That doesn't mean to say they weren't evil. I think they were, but they were certainly wasn't greedy. And people who were greedy, we know about them. This is one of the reasons we have so many dynasties, language, and blah 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 blah. Got it. And I would go as far as to say, like, if we didn't have the desert in the western area and we didn't have Himalayas in the eastern area, if we weren't geologically isolated, there wouldn't be an Indian race. Why would there be one? I think Mongols and the Chinese Empire would take over from east, and Roman Empire would take from west, and Indians weren't really war ready. So, so when Mughals came to India, this is one of the I explained just why they weren't greedy. So when Mughals came to India, they really came from war, right? They had wars all of the time. Their prophet was a warmonger in some sense, and Jordan B. Peterson explores deep intellectual insight with this, on how this is a very disturbing fact that he was a warmonger. But I don't find him to be that. It's not that disturbing, because his idea is actually his idea of war is actually a very modern one, to be honest. And I know. There are some people who say that the Muhammad says that you should kill whosoever who doesn't believe in your ideology, but that's not really true. I'll I'll give it more details in description. What the whole sentence means, that kill your enemies, but spare who don't want to fight with you, and escort them to safe haven. This is the whole thing, and I'll have it in the description. So and of course this wasn't followed, right? People didn't follow this, so yeah. So when Mughals came to India, they came from war, and what they wanted was a structure. They wanted a really good structure, and they found a structure of caste system. And I think everyone has a racism, right? Europe has a racism. Ireland has racism. They have, like, damn. British has racism, and like America has racism. Japan has it. China has it. Who doesn't has it, right? But India has India has a really good branding over racism, and this is one of the reasons India is being highlighted and has been highlighted in international communities so much. But fine. I think, oh wow, we are 15 minutes. So yes, they found a caste system, and what they wanted, a structure, a rigid, a structure that follows military might, and they went along with that, and they gave more power. So how it works in a very harsh climate is, wherever the competence is, money follows. No, wherever the most competence is, money, the power follows, and so does money, right? So does wealth. So when Mughals came, uh, they strengthened the idea of caste system. They strengthened the idea of having more power to certain people, and they corrupted some of the texts, I guess. Of course, it's all a guess. It's hypothesis. It's not theories, because, um, yep. And I'll come back to, yes, another point. I remember it from Mahabharata. So, what they say is that, if yes, so another argument is like, why did Parshuram curse him? The Parshuram cursed him because he lied, rather than that. And if Parshuram and who was that? That great guy, um, Bhishma Pitama. Yes, they were Narendra, right? They were Indra in Nars. They were top people, right? They were top 1%, and they really liked being liked. They understood social hierarchy very well, and they understood social ideology very well. And Ram himself, actually, we have criticism for Ram also, right? If Ram can be criticized, anyone can be criticized. So one of the biggest criticism of Ram is that he abandoned his wife in the peer pressure of society. I don't think Parshuram or Bhishma would have even liked um, Karn, because of the peer pressure of society. If Ram did surrender to the peer pressure, why wouldn't they? And they were certainly less man than Ram. So it's only good to assume that at that point there was no caste system, because it wouldn't make sense. Why would people would accept Karn all of a sudden? Why would they accept him all of a sudden for, what should I say, as a ruler, because he was given a land to rule from Duryodhan. Fast forward again. Now fast forwarding again to the Mughals time, and it followed, structure followed, and when you have power and when you have a system, uh, when you have power and when you have a system, discrimination follows. And then came Britishers. Britishers were also very cool people, and they liked the idea of that, right? They liked the idea of caste system because they wanted to giddy up. They wanted to close up to elites. They wanted to close up to the elites of India and the rich man of India, because if you control the rich, you control poor. If you control the rich man, you control the working class, and that's the end of it. So if you want to take over any country, just control the rich. If you control the rich, you control everyone. So they wanted to really please the elite classes, which was of course Brahmin and the higher classes, and everyone else was lower caste. So they gave them more power and more wealth, and and there was caste system. And we did not have sati pratha. There was no mention. There is just no mention of sati pratha. Like, if there was sati pratha, I think Sita Mata would have killed herself, but she did not, because there was no Sati Pratha. Sati Pratha was there because Mughals, they raped girls, and they raped girls in a very brutal way. They raped girls and they married very young girls. So that's the reason Bal Vivah started, and this is also the reason why Sati Pratha started. Britishers came, they gave a lot of power, and therefore there was a caste system. And here's the damn thing: and India did not take a lot of time to mature from this. There was Indian intellectuals who understand, okay, what the hell is happening. India was really quick to ban caste system, which is still not followed. It's still interesting how divided we are because of our beliefs, and it's still wonderful how we unite in certain situations. And as of right now, there are very very few places, very backward, and few places where caste system is still being followed. But yep, there is a caste system still now, and it's still in effect. in very few places, but majority places it has been abandoned, and the new generation certainly doesn't like the idea of it. So there it is. I think the caste system. The one of the reasons we should abandon caste system is because is that it it's it's adharm in some sense, right? It's adharm in some sense, and certainly Parshuram and Bhishma would not do adharm except that one, except for that one time. Yes, I guess that's all. I didn't mean like Parshuram committed adharm. I mean the Bhishma committed adharm. So yeah, that's all for now. See you guys later.